afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Minority Reportz podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh. You guys, this is a very unusual because I usually have my episodes at in the evening. But because this is a special time for a special guest, I'm not going to keep you guys any further. We are running on Brown Standard Time. I just want you to know. And it's totally cool because, hey, it's Friday. You know, it's a happy Friday, everyone. My guest today is a very special person. I actually met him, believe it or not, telling jokes in New York quite a while ago. And I got approached by him, and he was like, hey, you should come out to London and do the show, do some jokes. And I was like, oh, man, I would love that. Next thing you know, he was like, you should come out to Portugal and tell some jokes. And I was like, dude, I'm totally down. And just had the best time. He's literally one of the nicest, kindest human beings I've ever met. And I'm very proud to say he's a fellow Pakistani. So very, very excited to bring him on. He has a fantastic company that he is a founder and CEO of called Unitas Communications. And it's a cross-cultural communications agency. And I'm going to bring him on to tell us some more. So please welcome my very talented friend, Muddassar Ahmed. Muddassar, welcome.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thanks. And thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Oh,
and I'm sorry that we have to do it at this time, but it's already 7 p.m. here. So that's
Listen, I understand. It's Friday night. You got to get your tandoori chicken on. You got to get your biryani on. I get it, man. I will not take that away from you. Muddassar, you and I have known each other for a while now.
Yeah.
And, yeah. You're in London. And Muddassar, tell me about, the first time we met, you were watching me at a comedy show in New York City, right?
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling my Desi mom jokes, and then everybody was crying. I still have that video, actually.
Right.
Somebody made that video. But Muddassar, I think everything that you are doing and have been doing with Unitas, can you tell us a little bit more about Unitas Communications and how you even came up with it?
No, absolutely. One of the reasons I came to see you was because I'm always interested in cross-cultural issues, right? Yeah. How do you tell jokes when you come from a different culture to a different culture when you're a melting pot in and of yourself? Yeah. And it's this cross-cultural understanding that led me to set up my company. Yeah. Because I wanted to be able to explain different cultures to each other, And comedy, of course, is a fantastic way to do that, Yeah. You can take the piss out of people without them even realizing. But also at the same time, you can inform, educate people about deeply complex issues. I do that in using a variety of different tools, mainly in the media, mainly in public affairs. And I founded the company about 12 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to tell stories, if you like, from the developing world to the developed world. And we wanted to break down barriers, enable channels for business, enable channels for, more mass media penetration and things like that. And I did it because I wanted to bring people closer together.
Got it. Yeah. And you started this how many years ago, Muddassar?
About 12 years ago now. Yeah.
12. And now, you are born and raised in London, so you are first generation British Pakistani.
Yeah, second generation, I think. Oh, yeah, depends. I think Americans. So you guys say first generation when you're born. I see. Okay, yeah. In that case, I'm first generation. Yeah.
Right. So, and now, where in Pakistan is your family from?
My family is from a place called Rawalpindi, which is a twin city of a place called Islamabad, the capital.
That's right. I have been to Rawalpindi. And do you go to Pakistan often? What is that like for you?
Yeah, I have an interesting love-hate relationship with Pakistan. It's so complicated and it's so difficult to describe. I tell you, as a kid, we used to go every year. Yeah. Then we stopped going for a while. Then I recently started going about 10 years ago. I think the last time I went was about maybe 2 years ago. Okay. And going as an adult and as a kid, obviously you see different things. But, I have to tell you, I still get that sort of excitement when my plane lands in Pakistan. I can't describe it. It's so kind of weird, there's this strange excitement. And then, so I now go for professional reasons. So I go for work and I meet a lot of people in the work context. I don't think I could live there. It would drive me crazy. But I think I would go often in Pakistan. Recently, I had an incredible experience where I went up north and went to some incredibly beautiful and stunning places that are off the beaten path, and spent a few weeks there, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, interesting love-hate relationship. I find that the best thing to do with your relatives there is just not talk about religion or politics.
That's it. Those are the two things you stay away from. You don't not talk about that stuff.
No, they're going to love you. Simple as that.
I mean, Muddassar, do you experience this when you go back where they tell you, or relatives tell you, oh my God, your Urdu is still really good. Wow, you're still like Pakistani.
Well, I have to admit my Urdu has deteriorated. But yeah, they are, but I can understand everything and I can speak it fairly well. Yeah. So they are surprised, and it sometimes catches them out.
It's so funny. The last time I went to Pakistan was almost 14 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while.
Where is your family from?
Karachi. I was born and raised in Karachi.
Right.
Yeah, I moved to New York when I was 15. Yeah, I moved to New York when I was 15. But, last time I went was in 2006 because my father passed away, and it was I think it was just very traumatic for me to be there. All these memories flooding at me, going to the house that I was born and raised in. I think it really fucked with my head. And I was just like, oh man, I can't go back. It's just too much trauma. And I think maybe that's why I've just kind of not back. And do I miss it? Yeah, I miss certain aspects of Pakistan. And I think I agree with you. I think it's just, you have this kind of connection, right? It's like no matter how messed up your parents could be, you still have that bond. And it's that channel.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that my father made a very strong effort for us to be brought up very cognizant of Pakistani culture. Mm-hmm. So I feel very lucky that I was able to relate to the art, the music, the poetry, and I still draw upon it today, mm-hmm. and that I feel very, very privileged to be able to do that. Many people weren't able to do that, so I definitely feel very lucky about that.
Well, is this a thing for you? Oh, I want to tell you the story. So last time I went, my puppo, my dad's older sister. So I was always a pretty dark skinned child, right? And in Pakistan, like Karachi, it's really hot. And why is there an echo? There is an echo here somewhere. Do you hear an echo?
Slight one. Let me try muting at my end. When
I don't know why there's an echo. How's this? Well, I don't want you to be muted because I want to hear you.
Okay. There
you are. Okay, I guess it comes and goes. My aunt looked at me and she was like, "Oh my God, you've been in America all this time. You're still so dark. I thought you were gonna be light skinned living in America." I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? When you live in colder regions, it makes you light skin. There's so much colorism in our culture. Fair skin is beautiful and dark skin is not. Even though you can look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but as long as you have fair skin, you're beautiful. I mean, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, do you know they have tanning salons who look like us? She's like, what? I was like, yeah. They're trying to look like us, and we're trying to look like them. For God's sake, stop it! But it was really fascinating.
That's hilarious. Yes.
Yeah. And she was just like, "Why aren't you white yet? You've been in a white country for so long. Why aren't you white yet?" And I was like, what? That's ridiculous. But that's when you were growing up in London. Was there? I know that the South Asian, or as you guys like to call it, Asian culture in England is pretty different than the South Asian culture in the U.S. Did you what was that kind of growing up for you? When you weren't really kind of had that permission, it wasn't so readily acceptable to be like, I'm Pakistani, or my Pakistani roots. Like, you weren't kind of maybe allowed to kind of have pride. What was that like for you?
That was really interesting. I mean, paradoxically, I kind of just about missed the worst bit of that, growing up. But I grew up in an area that, so the Desi, the kind of Pakistani community in the UK is far more condensed, they live closer together in neighborhoods. In LA and in America, it's very spread out, except for New York and maybe Chicago, but other places are very spread out. So it's not so connected. But, where I grew up, for instance, walking back from the subway, I'd walk past 3 mosques and it was a 10-minute walk to my house.
Whoa.
Yeah. And like 3 halal butcher shops and God knows how many aunties on the way, which made coming back home from night outs quite difficult. But the point is that it was always
Can't bring a girlfriend around, Muddassar. Girlfriends are out. Can't bring a girlfriend around. That's out.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're talking about. But it was a very interesting culture and a very different time, But I also felt that there was a very strong counter movement for people to keep that culture alive, So normally minorities tend to hold on to the culture stronger, because they feel like they're losing their identity and this sort of thing. So you found a lot of that where I was growing up. So there were Pakistani associations, there were Muslim associations. During Ramadan, everybody went to the mosque all the time. There was a very strong community. Now, this has its upsides and its downsides, right? I mean, the upside for me were, I remember, oh my God, like every week there was like food coming. People were just sharing food all the time. And when it was like religious holidays, everybody would come and give you food, the same type of food, but doesn't matter, whatever. And during Ramadan, you would have literally every day somebody would be sending food. And that was really nice, And then, of course, the other thing that you found growing up at our culture was, I remember when my father died, I was very young. I was about 15 or something.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, Professor. That's very young.
That's okay. But when my father died, he died in the hospital. We called someone at home. So we called someone to let them know. We were driving back from the hospital. It was about an hour's drive. When we got home, there were like 1 million people in our house, sorting everything out. The sofas had been moved to the side. Food was there, cleaned up. That's community.
Wow.
That's community. Wow. And I'm kind of, now, obviously, I grew up. I did well. I moved out. Now I live in a neighborhood that's more white than anything else.
Yeah.
And there's very few brown. There are brown people, but very few. It's more of a professional area.
Yeah.
I miss that, and I kind of miss that. Even though I didn't engage with it so much when I was there, and maybe I didn't appreciate it as much. The older you get, the more you crave community. Genuine community for good, warts and all,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Muddassar, you can always move back in those communities. So.
You see, no, I don't know. I said the downsides as well, right?
Exactly. So it's like that. It's that interesting balance. That's interesting. You said that because in Texas, in Dallas, and in Houston, we have massive Asian population. Ooh, did you mute? Oh yeah, we have massive populations, and it's very much that. It's very much this sense of community there. I really didn't kind of grow up with it. It's I kind of grew up with this a little bit, but not really. We just always kind of lived in places that were not really very South Asian heavy. We just kind of did our own kind of a thing. But you grew up in that, and then. Would you say that because you grew up in that environment, it really kind of influenced for you to be like, you know what, I want to come up with something. I want to do the kind of work where there is cross-culture. Do you think that played a role for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Like growing up, I grew up at a time where anti-immigrant sentiment, anti-Pakistani sentiment, and anti-Muslim sentiment was very high. And I remember seeing so much crap in the media all the time. And I started off very young trying to rectify that crap, I've most of my life, growing up, going through high school, through college, was rectifying rubbish things out there, lazy assumptions, targeted racism, and also coloring us all in the same brush, We're such a diverse group of people. We have conservative to liberal to all sorts, and we're happy. We come from countries that have had long liberal traditions. countries that have had long conservative traditions. You know, and we're figuring it out. But to portray us all as one type of people was something I've been fighting my whole life. And then I guess I ended up working in the media for a while. And then from there, it seemed like a natural thing to end up doing the work that I do now.
Yeah, absolutely. Muddassar, what are some of the personal things you experienced in London? I mean, like, I've seen a lot of, I guess, British TV shows where, I know that, there's the P word. I know for you guys, it's a pretty bad word. I wouldn't say it's the equivalent of the N word, but it's kind of up there with it because it's a very demeaning word that is used against Pakistanis. What was that? I mean, you live, so did you kind of experience this? Because I did. This kind of identity crisis of where you're just like, okay, I live here, but I also have to go out and assimilate in British culture, right? I'm also British, but I'm also Pakistani. So, that's kind of finding your footing and trying to find that balance, because when you come home, you have to be this good Muslim Pakistani boy. But when you go outside, you are Pakistani is part of your identity, but you're also British and you also have to assimilate. What was that like for you?
Interesting question. I tried not to think about it too much, I just tried to be myself in both places, Of course, I experienced racism as well growing up. I think that certain doors. Look, you asked me about my company, yeah. I started my company partly because I couldn't get an internship in a PR company.
You couldn't get an internship where? In
any PR company.
Wow.
I applied to so many, and at the time they would ask me about my background, the school I went to, my religious whatever, and I felt shut out. And actually there is a big movement in the UK now about rectifying racism within media and the PR. The PR industry was worse than the media, And I remember I applied to about 5 internships and I was like, screw this, I'm going to set my own firm up. And now we're one of the leading firms of its kind. And I'm very happy I did that. Actually,
wow.
What's really interesting is that when traditional doors are shut for migrants, they just create their own space sometimes.
That's right.
So this is why, or they fall into a depressive cycle. You understand? Right? And I was determined not to be that guy. I was determined not to be that bitter guy. Look, you get busy living, you get busy dying. At the end of the day, if one door closes, you have to hustle and find another door and open it. Yeah. And I could sit here and complain about racism and the truth is that when I decided that I wasn't going to be a victim, what I found was that actually there were just as many people in British society that wanted to help me succeed.
Sure.
So my first investor was a traditional white guy. In fact, all 3 of my investors were not Pakistani; they were not Muslim. So actually, I think it's all about your attitude and the way you think. And if you do not fall into victim mentality, you keep pushing yourself, the universe opens doors for you.
I don't think I could have agreed any more. And I think this is why I've always liked you, Muddassar. This is it. This is right here. I don't think we've ever actually had an opportunity to verbalize this to each other, but I've always felt that about you, right? I mean, I think for me, it was the same thing. It's like, let's not be a victim. It's like, okay, well, you're listen, even with whatever racism and whatever prejudice we've experienced, we still sit in a more privileged position than Pakistanis possibly even back home. Right? We sit in a privileged position. Like, we have opportunities and access to things that people back in Pakistan probably would never have access to, right? So why sit here and just victimize ourselves where you're just like, no, I can actually make stuff happen. Like, this is, I can make stuff happen. When you started your PR company, was it just you? Did you have another partner with you? You were like,
so it's really, again, interesting story. I started the company with my best friend from high school. He's a friend of mine who I met when I was 11.
White guy?
No, white guy. His name is Shiraz. He's you know him.
I do know Shiraz. I didn't know that's how you guys knew each other.
Yeah, we met because My surname is Ahmed with an E, and his surname was Ahmed with an A, and we were next to each other in the register.
Oh.
So we've been friends since the age of 11, and we had different paths coming out of college, right? So I ended up working in the media, working with broadcast stations, things like that. And he ended up working in policy, and he ended up living in the Czech Republic and Vienna, working in like policy think tanks, that kind of stuff. And we were both around, was it 26, 27, something like that, and we'd had a few years behind us. And, he was facing some of the same obstacles as me. Yeah. And we both had a very similar vision that we wanted to, tell cross-cultural communications, and, we wanted to work for interesting organizations. And, we were lucky enough to find someone to believe in our vision, and here we are.
I did not know that. I love Shiraz. Shiraz is just good people, just like you are. And you guys to me are like a package deal. Like, so when I met you, I met Shiraz, and I was like, oh man, you guys are just like the nicest, sweetest guys ever.
Very kind of you to say.
Which is, which hasn't been my most experience with Pakistani guys, but you guys definitely changed that perception for me a great deal. So thank you for doing that. But yeah, Shiraz and you guys are an absolutely fantastic team. He's just such a lovely human being. He really is. I mean, you guys, with your cross-cultural PR company that you guys started, did you guys started approaching what was like your first kind? You were like, what are the companies you guys were looking to target first before anything?
No, it was really interesting. Our first actual proper client, we did a couple of small community contracts, but our first actual major client was the Arab League, which is this intergovernmental body. So interesting. I was young and I met the ambassador at a diplomatic reception in Parliament, and I was like, look, we do PR, and we were young, wet behind the ears,
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have hired me.
Wait, sorry, Muddassar. What does that mean, wet behind the ears? I don't know what that means.
It means like we were just inexperienced, young, maybe a bit uncouth. I don't want to say uncouth, but maybe not so sophisticated, Is
that coming out of the womb? Example, what is that? Like wet behind the ears? Were you swimming? Why are you wet behind the ears?
Oh, it's an English saying. It means that you're sort of young and you're not dry your ears. I'm going to have to send you a link on that where that saying comes from. But we use it to mean that when someone is not experienced,
Got it.
Maybe when they're not so sophisticated,
Got it.
So we pitched to the Arab League ambassador here in London, and somehow he liked us, and we got lucky. He hired us, and then within a year, we also signed up with the UN, and it just rocketed from there.
Wow. So
we work with the three major intergovernmental bodies in the world: the UN, the Arab League, the OIC, and the UN World Tourism Organization. We work with several governments. Several high net worth individuals,
wow.
So we've come a long way.
It's not fancy at all, Muddassar. Not fancy in the slightest. What is that like, Muddassar? Like when you sit down with like somebody like the Arab League? Are the Arab League? Are they mostly made up of Khaliji countries? Like what is the Arab League made up of?
No, it's I think it's 22 states, but it's all the Arab, so everything from Iraq, Jordan, all the way to Morocco and the Khaliji states. They're not such a. I mean, it's sort of led by Egypt in a way, so they're not particularly active. They were more active back then. They still exist, but they're not so cohesive as they once were. I think they'll be the first to admit it. But back then they were they have a mission here. They have ambassadors all over the place, and they just wanted to be better known, for their work and for their policy positions. And our job was to enable that, to help people better understand what they did, what they stood for, the right kind of people, heard from them, and also the media heard from them, and also the right politicians heard from them. So that was the initial gig.
How is it that Pakistan hasn't hired you guys?
Well, we have, long story,
Pakistan needs good PR.
Oh, it does need good PR. We've worked for Pakistan. Okay, we haven't worked for Pakistan, but we represented the largest NGO in Pakistan.
Okay.
By far, yeah. So it's called RSPN. It's by far the biggest NGO in Pakistan. It's huge, So they have, they own banks, they own textile mills, they own colleges, they own power projects and dams, and they're the single largest recipient of EU funding anywhere in the world. I think the EU gives them 400 million euros a year. They're absolutely massive, and people didn't know about them, and people still don't know about them, But anyway, oh shit, I probably shouldn't say that. But so they hired us, and we did a lot of work with them. And then, I don't know if this is a Pakistani move, but they were like, "Oh yeah, we can't afford you guys, but hey, Muddassar, join our board." So now I'm a board member.
Okay.
But that's okay. It's fun, but it's very rewarding. And I've traveled all over Pakistan with them.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're massive in Sindh. I did a lot of work in Sindh, Upper Sindh, on the, so they're an incredible organization. So that's the only, but in Pakistan, we're open to it. It's just never worked out.
Interesting. That's interesting. They don't have budget for it. They got $400 million from the EU.
Oh, you're talking about RSPN? Yeah, but all that money has to be spent on poor people or or building stuff or whatever, So
right. Well, just to kind of sidetrack on the Pakistani government. So you talk about this largest NGO, RSPN. They get funded by the EU. They get $400 million a year. The Pakistani government the history of Pakistani government has been complex, to say the least. It always has been. These NGOs go out there and do all this work. I mean, the Pakistani government, man. Have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've met Imran Khan several times, and actually, I should have said I've hosted him in London many times, a few times, and every time I go to Pakistan, I try to see him.
Can you tell who Imran Khan is? Some people who don't know, the listeners who are
the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Current Prime Minister.
Current Prime Minister of Pakistan. Look, there's a really good book called Pakistan, a Hard Country by Anatole Levin, where he talks about Pakistan is just an incredibly hard country to manage. It's, first of all, it's huge.
Yeah.
Secondly, it has an oversized population. Thirdly, it's largely still illiterate.
Yes.
And there are so many different tribes and religions and religious interpretations and, tearing it apart. And then on top of that, it has always been a proxy for major powers. The Americans were, knee deep in Pakistan trying to get rid of the Soviets in Afghanistan. Now the Chinese basically have this huge, I think Pakistan is the single largest recipient of Chinese aid anywhere in the world.
Really?
With the investment, in any case, with the CPEC
that's right.
Project. So Pakistan's always been kind of buffeted between major powers, and just been a very difficult country to run. I wouldn't want to run it. So it'll drive anyone crazy. It's a miracle the country still exists,
I'm shocked with us, sir, how Pakistan even functions.
How Pakistan what?
It even functions. It even operates. Like, people get up. To me, Pakistan is this incredible mix of the war between the mullahs and the intellectuals.
Yeah.
You have brilliant people in Pakistan, and then you have these mullahs and the religious zealots who are constantly fighting for power, and it's like this constant back and forth. And we just can't seem to find peace. Like, it's always, I honestly, Muddassar, I really believe, and this is not just for Pakistan, predominantly Muslim countries must separate religion and state, period. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, and separation of religion and state. Let's just start there. Everything else, but those are the three I feel will cause the most chaos and the most unrest. What do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, the history of religion in politics has always been messy, especially in places like Pakistan. You can see that, and a lot of people will attack you for calling for the separation of religion and state in Pakistan, but they forget that for decades of Islamic history, this was always the case, it's in a place like Pakistan, it just leads to a recipe for disaster, And to be fair, in Pakistan, the religious parties have never been, fully in power, but they have a huge influence, Like the current PTI is not a religious party,
That's right.
It won't claim to be. The PPP isn't, PML isn't,
Right.
But I think Pakistan has just, it's a miracle it exists, and and the Pakistani people are very resilient. Very
incredibly resilient.
So resilient, so brave and so resilient, and God bless them, But it's a tough place to be.
Honestly, I even go back to, sometimes I think about my father, how he established his business in Pakistan, and our family kind of made their name and made their money by becoming the largest driving institutes in Karachi. So all the driving institutes, that's our family business. Like my uncles and my dad, and they all dominated the business. And I sometimes sit down and I think about my father. It's like, how the fuck did you how did you manage to navigate your way and make money, and then have the foresight to send your children to America, having to dare to go out to America? It blows my mind, Muddassar. It blows my mind. Your father, what did he do in Pakistan? What did he do before he decided to move the family to London?
Good question. I believe that he worked for the government. He used to work, there was a huge dam built in Pakistan, and he was I want to say he was a procurement officer or something like that. He was a civil servant. But he had this sense of adventure, and he always wanted to get out. I think he was doing all right. He was an educated, master's level kind of, and he was in the civil service stream, whatever you call it. Mm-hmm. But he just wanted to get out. He wanted to be in Europe.
Yeah.
How did your father end up in America then?
My father never ended up in America. My father had a big business, and the reason we ended up in America is because I have 4 older brothers. I'm the youngest and the only girl. And my 2 brothers, my second and my third brother, were given expired vaccination for polio, and they got polio because of it.
Oh.
And that's why we came to the U.S., is because my mom would write letters to hospitals around the world saying, I have 2 sick kids that have polio and there's no treatment for them. And then kind of through the reference of one of my mom's cousin was a doctor in Boston, and said, hey, my mom wrote a letter with the help of her cousin, because my mom got married off at 17. She didn't speak English. She wasn't, fluent in writing English whatsoever. Sat down with a cousin who did speak English and wrote a letter and be like, listen, I have 2 sick children. They need help. We don't know what to do. And then the cousin in Boston was like, hey, I know a hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, and they take care of international children who are problems. And then my mom wrote that letter got forwarded to Shriners Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky. Shout out to Shriners Hospital. Thank you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And they're the ones who said, you know what? We read your story, and I'm sorry this happened to you. If you guys just fly yourself out here, we'll pay for everything.
Wow.
And that's how we started coming to the U.S. And so my parents never moved to the U.S.
Oh, he always stayed in Karachi.
They always stayed in Karachi, and they sent us here, got us settled, and just went back.
Back and forth, presumably.
Back and forth, yeah. My father never wanted to live in America. He was a diehard Pakistani, diehard. He was like, I am a Pakistani. I am, this is my country, and I am not leaving. This is it. I'll come visit you guys, but I am not living in America. I am living in Pakistan. I think for my father, there was also this thing that because he had such established business in Pakistan, he couldn't imagine in his 40s and his 50s to be like, I'm going to uproot myself and then go do these weird odd jobs in America. Deliver pizzas? What am I going to do? Be a driver, a taxi driver? What am I going to do?
So Mona, how comes you didn't go into the family business then?
I did want to go into the family business. And my father, when he passed, when my father was alive, I asked him, and I called him one day, and I was like, would you like me to come back and help run the family business? Because my brothers didn't want to do it. And my father was like, I'm not going to ask my daughter to come and run the family business. That going to happen, you know? So you just kind of, my father's plan, hilarious with us. He was like, oh, you guys are going to go to America, right? You guys are going to become a panel of 5 doctors miraculously. This miracle from God is going to come down. It's going to make you this panel of 5 doctors. Then you guys are going to come back to Pakistan. I'm going to help open like this ginormous hospital, and you guys are going to run that as a family business.
Bless him. Yeah.
I was like, Dad, I've heard a lot of
Did you guys become doctors then?
What do you think, Muddassar?
I don't know, actually. You could have.
No. Hell no. None of us wanted to become doctors.
Right.
First of all, going to med school is so expensive in America. Like,
right.
You're looking at upwards of $150,000, $200,000 each.
Right.
My father had money, but not that kind of money. Like, we were like these poor immigrant children living in a 1-bedroom basement apartment in the middle of Jersey City, for God's sake. How the hell were we going to go to med school? You know, I wasn't going to go to med school. You know, I sling dirty jokes on stage for a living now, man. Come on, you know, what a vast difference that is from becoming a doctor. I didn't no desire. My parents used to be like, you are going to grow up to be doctor this and doctor that. And I'm like, man, become a doctor. You know, that was like the thing. What did your parents have kind of expectations of you? What did they want you to become? Doctor?
Yeah, I think my parents, you know, bless them. My parents were always very sort of accepting of my whims, you know, in that way. But
wow.
My dad would have liked me to have become a lawyer.
Lawyer, okay.
Yeah, I think he would have liked me to have become a lawyer, but they didn't. There wasn't. I didn't have that pressure. I know a lot of Asian families, you know, the parents really try to dictate their career choices, and I was very lucky that I didn't have that. You know,
you just got lucky with us.
Yeah, well, you know, I think partly I got lucky. Partly my father died when I was very young. Mm-hmm. Maybe it would have been different had he stayed alive.
Yeah.
But he certainly gave me a good grounding in life, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the education that he imparted to me when he was alive, beyond, you know, going to school was very useful to the man I am, you know?
Yeah. Was your father and were your parents the kind of people who were like sit down at dinner table and be like, how was your day? Tell me, what did you learn in school? Were they like that? What were they like?
Well, what they were like was, hey, welcome back from school. Now let's start the Urdu curriculum.
Oh, wow.
Those kind of parents. So we followed the Urdu curriculum from the age of like 6 to like 14. Mm-hmm. Every single day at home.
Wow. Wow. I mean, wow, that's pretty intense. So wait, who's teaching this? Your mom is? Who's teaching you?
Both, mom and dad, both.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had us, you know, so I can write, I can read, I can comprehend. You know, I'm losing it now a lot, but, you know, I was following, they would order these textbooks from Pakistan, you know, and we would sit down and we would follow the curriculum all the way through, you know.
Wow.
So they really put a lot of effort in. My dad was a very good mathematician, so he would spend a lot of effort teaching me maths. I just never got it. Maths wasn't me, you know. So they were those kind of parents. So they put a lot of effort, and my dad was obsessed about us retaining our culture, you know. So he'd take us to Pakistan every year. Yeah. He ensured that we were part of the community and went to all the community events, things like that. And I guess it paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. But was there a lot of pressure to learn things about Islam and read the Quran? And like, was that like a pressure thing for you guys? What was that like for you?
Do you know, a little, yeah. I mean, because like the most Muslim Desi kids, we were grown up. You know, we were brought up learning the Quran. You know, and I was sent to the mosque, and I hated it. So then I started, I stopped going, and we were taught at home.
Why did you hate it, Muddassar?
Oh man, the imam was a bully.
Why are they like that, Muddassar? Why are they like that?
Man. Don't get me started on this. You know, I just started a company.
No, I want you to get started, Muddassar. I want you to get started.
I don't know if you saw. I just started a company that brings imams, vetted imams to people.
Oh, no. What is the company? You tell.
Yeah, it's called Imam Connect. It's an online portal that gives you vetted, verified, and background checked imams to do anything you want. To teach you Islam, to do nikahs, to do marriage ceremonies, to help you with funerals, whatever you need. So because this is a big problem that a lot of imams are not background vetted, checked, whatever. So it's actually it's done pretty well already. It's we've been had some massive media coverage, and it's www.imamconnect.com.
I love it. This is great. Well, how do you vet them? Like, how do you vet these imams?
We have a 3-level vetting system for imams. We have basic, which means identity verification. We have intermediate, which means identity verification plus qualification check. And we have advanced, which is identity verification, qualification check, and police check.
Wow.
So, yeah, we have a fully integrated system of vetting imams. And it's like a virtual mosque. So many of us, we have complicated relationships with our religion, but many people don't completely drop off. Like, they'd still, if they got married, they'd want a nikah. You never know when you need an imam. Or also your faith, when it goes up or down, right? Yeah. So we don't know where to go in a circumstance like that, because many people don't go to the mosque anymore. So I wanted to create a place online where you can go and somebody can meet you where you're at. They're verified, they're understanding, and they will teach you whatever you want or provide any service that you want.
And are they all based in Britain, or where are they?
All over America, Canada, Britain, South Africa. Do
you have female imams?
Yes, we do. Loads. Yeah.
This is just so cool, Muddassar. This is
cool. The BBC covered us and did a massive segment on us.
I need to check this out. I did not do my homework on that. I apologize. I need to definitely research that. That sounds amazing. Muddassar, this whole thing, do you also have moms from Pakistan and other places too?
Not yet. Maybe we will later on, right? I mean, of course, we have imams of Pakistani descent, or Pakistanis living in the West, but not Muslim majority countries just yet. It's kind of like aimed at Western Muslims for now. And it's aimed mainly at the unmosqued people that, don't have a regular mosque that they go to, but need Islamic services once in a while, So it's aimed at that class of people, basically.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's really wonderful. That's really amazing. Well, do you guys have imams that do like different people of different religions who want to get married, or they're like, no, you have to convert kind of thing?
I wouldn't know about that. You'd have to ask the imams on the platform. So we have you can ask them a question, you can, engage with them, and I think it depends on the imam, but I can tell you that we have from liberal to conservative. We have some, lots of liberal imams, lots of conservative imams, and it entirely depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Liberal imams and then conservative imams.
There we go. Because imams don't have to all be one type.
That's true. That is true. That is very true. And there could be Sunnis, there could be Shias, there could be...
We have everything on the platform.
There could be everything. There could be absolutely everything. That is amazing, Muddassar. Good for you. Congratulations. That sounds really wonderful. That sounds really, really wonderful. Muddassar, so now with the pandemic and everything like that, how has that affected your business?
Well, we've actually done okay. We've been very busy, We've, in fact, we've picked up some clients during the pandemic, and we're coming out of this strong. I think short to medium term, we're going to be okay because we had existing relationships, that go back years, and many of our clients are repeat business. So we've done fine. Who knows what the long term holds, if these people in turn have their budgets cut because of the long-term economic ramifications, maybe it'll affect us. But certainly in the short to medium term, I don't see that happening. In fact, we're turning away requests,
Wow.
So touch wood, we've been okay,
Thank God. That's wonderful. Listen, you guys have in London have a Pakistani mayor, which is very cool. He's still current mayor, yes?
He is, yes.
How has he been for London?
Well, it depends who you talk to, really. He's inherited a very difficult situation now with the pandemic. It's people are complaining about the price of transport. He's put up the congestion charge fees, and he's done a number of things. So it's a mixed bag, really, and I think fundamentally, his election was delayed by a year, so he's going to have to get reelected again next year. And
you guys delayed the election because of the pandemic?
No, yeah, because the election was supposed to be in May, so we delayed the election by a year.
Wow.
And people have mixed feelings about it. Politicians are politicians, right? They have friends and they have people that don't like them. I think he's a great symbol for the city. But I think, he there's a lot of things that he hasn't done that people will worry about.
What about you personally?
I'm going to give him some more time before I make my mind up.
Got it. How long is the mayoral term when the mayor serves?
Only 4 years, but it's going to be 5 years now. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. As you know, everybody, our elections are in full swing. We are literally weeks away from nominating our new president, named Joe Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris, who's going to make history because she was part brownie. Hey, girl brown power, what's up? And I'm very excited about Kamala Harris. But how much does the American politics affects British politics? Massively.
Absolutely massively. There's a saying that America sneezes and the world catches a cold.
That's correct.
And America has an outsized influence, especially on Britain, because we love to suck up to America so much. Mm-hmm. And so much of our foreign policy, domestic policy, is kind of formed. I mean, ever since Trump was in power, he has, deliberately kept British friends that think like him. So Nigel Farage, I don't know if you know that name, and others.
Of course I do who Nigel Farage is.
Yeah, and he has boosted them. He's used the podium to boost people that think like him.
Of course.
People that are divisive, people that are populist, and some people that are anti-immigrant, right. Borderline xenophobic, maybe xenophobic. So this is why what happens in America is so important, because, America has this outsized influence on policy, especially in Britain. And I keep a very, very close eye on what's going on in America. Yeah. And I hope that, I very much hope that things change in America.
Yes.
And I hope that the new administration starts fixing some of the things that have happened.
I mean, Muddassar, I can tell you, as you saw boots on the ground, the kind of devastation this administration has caused America across the globe, when it comes to economy, food standing, just our reputation globally, just across the board has been devastating. And I almost feel, as an American, and also somebody, who's an immigrant, is that we almost needed this as Americans as a wake-up call, because we've been taking our freedom for granted for years. For years, we've been taking our freedom for granted. And now, just the election of, Trump and his swamp that he brought with him has really kind of brought to surface the problems that have been hidden and been lurking in the dark for a very long time. Systemic racism, the anti-immigrant sentiment. I mean, the fact that we have children at the border being put in cages, separated from their parents, dying at the hands of our government. I mean, these are like crimes against humanity. This is going to be a huge scar on the American history for the rest of our existence. When I look at somebody like Nigel Farage, or even your current sitting Prime Minister Boris, they also have the same mentality and same kind of sentiment as Trump does. Have they caused similar devastation in Britain the way Trump has to America?
Oh, wow. Not to the same extent, but to a large extent, they have. The biggest problem we have right now is the way Boris Johnson has handled this pandemic. And as a person of minority background, I can tell you that this pandemic has disproportionately affected people from minority backgrounds. Now, part of that is genetic, and possibly, but part of it is also structural. Part of it is also the fact that for decades, these areas had underinvested in their healthcare systems.
Sure.
There are, issues around, the quality of healthcare services provided to these minorities. Also, minorities are in front-facing jobs. They're bus drivers. They're working in restaurants. They're more likely to catch it. Some people don't understand English very well, so there's a problem of communicating. And so they live in overcrowded accommodation. Often they live in homes with lots of different people. So as a minority in the past year in the UK, we have been disproportionately affected by the COVID pandemic. Also, our government has handled the COVID pandemic terribly.
Yeah.
Terribly. And, it's mass incompetence on an incredible scale.
Yeah.
There is so much resentment at the way the government, and there's so much anger. It is, if we had an election tomorrow, this government would lose by a huge margin.
Sure.
Now, there are some dog whistle, there are some people within the party that are racist. There are some people that are xenophobic. The Conservative Party, as a party, has a lot of members that have been openly Islamophobic. This is a problem. And the Conservative Party is a ruling party.
Wow.
This has been well documented and whatever. So, I don't think our Prime Minister is racist, but I think our Prime Minister definitely panders to some of these issues.
Have you guys also had, we've had right-wing extremists. Just yesterday, the news came out, these right-wing extremists were trying to kidnap the governor of Michigan.
Wow.
It's like fucking mini Russia over here. Ridiculous. When would you ever think in America there would ever be a conversation about a governor of a state? She's a Democratic, governor.
Oh, and president. Somebody was considered for VP nomination as well, right?
I don't think she was considered for. Not her. She wasn't considered. I don't think so. But the fact that Trump tweeted, which was a dog whistle to his right-wing, Nazis and fascists that support him, to be like, liberate Michigan. Liberate from what? You are the fucking president of the United States whose ginormous mishandling of this pandemic has caused 210,000 dead Americans. What the hell are you talking about, liberate Michigan? Right? And these are the kind of dog whistles that we have. Is that something similar to what Boris has been doing, or even Nigel Farage?
No, not to that extent. No, sorry. You guys have a much crazier president. We haven't had. Look, Boris Johnson has said some terrible things about, Muslim women in niqab and things like that, and other bits and pieces that some people have said that this is dog whistle. He's said some salacious stuff, but not to that extent, not to the extent liberate Michigan, and not to the extent Trump has, Boris Johnson has flirted with dangerous ideas, and has said dog whistle things and terrible things, that has been criticized publicly. But you guys have a unique problem there, and I honestly am really worried about the future of America.
Me too.
Ability, and God forbid if he wins, I can't imagine how that's going to go down. And even if he loses, I think there's a lot of crazy people out there, Things are going to be settled for a while.
This president has unleashed a level of crazy, the amount of racism and crazy that has been permitted to be unleashed and has been accepted and, almost cheered, it is absolutely cheered on by the president of the United States, has really brought this country to a level of divisiveness that we've just never experienced before, it just really worries me. So I wonder, look, from Duarte to Bolsonaro to, Nigel Farage and to Boris, just to Modi, it's just all these conservative assholes are like nationalist assholes are just going out of control. It's just out of control right now. You know what I'm saying? What happens to your PR company? Do you have conservative, people approaching you and they're like, hey, represent us. We want you to help us. Is that a thing for you guys? And how do you guys handle something like that?
We, Do you know, I don't, I mean, depends what you mean, but we don't have, look, the reason I went into business for myself was because I wanted to choose the clients I have, and we would never represent any xenophobic, agenda or any racist agenda or even an agenda that is crippling people. We work for Amnesty International. Amnesty International was a client, so we've, we're very careful about who we work with. Do you know there is a difference between PR and propaganda? And we're not in the business of propaganda. That's a totally different kettle of fish. It's not. It's there's a different. You need Bannon for that kind of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Well, listen, I want to go back a little bit briefly and talk about why the madrasas in the West and abroad have these crazy, power-hungry, bully imams. What is that mentality about? Is that illiteracy? Is that ignorance? Is that a need for power over vulnerable children? What is that about, Muddassar?
Well, I think first thing is important to note that not all imams are like that, right? And secondly, all of the above is the answer. I unfortunately I had a terrible experience with an imam, growing up, and I think that part of the problem is that we don't attract our most talented people into that profession. So the pipeline is full of people, unfortunately, that failed at everything else often, and then decided to go into this. So why do we not attract people? Because we don't pay them very well. So the salaries are very poor, the conditions are very poor, and also there is, then of course you're going to get megalomaniacs, just like you had people in the church abusing kids. You're going to get people that use the position to abuse people. So I think it's a variety of reasons, Mona, but I'm thankful that things are getting better. Slowly but surely, things are getting better. And, I soothe myself by reminding myself that, religious people are not perfect. Religion is not perfect because it's man-made, right. But God is true.
Sacrilege, Muddassar. Did you say man-made? No, it has come from the heavens. What are you talking about?
You know what I mean? It's interpreted by men, right? So because men act as adjudicators, there's room for corruption.
Yes.
Whenever you have men, you have corruption.
That's correct.
That's why religion can be corrupt.
I'm so glad you said men and not women, so I appreciate
that. Well, actually, on that, I think both sexes are culpable. I'm sure.
Listen, to be fair, Muddassar, it has been predominantly men.
It has, but that doesn't mean to say that both aren't susceptible to corruption.
No, but but in the Abrahamic faith, it's predominantly men calling the shots, saying you can do this and you can't do that, and the whole thing about 72 virgins, it wasn't a woman who came up with that, it was a dude. There were dudes who came up with that. The whole thing about 72 virgins, that always cracks me up. And Muddassar, when you were saying that when you took a tour of Pakistan with the RSPN NGO, was there like a sense of, did you have security guards with you? Safety? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, actually, I'll give you a story.
Yeah.
I had security. We had quite a lot of times we had armed convoys. I remember once I was in the Northwest Frontier province and traveling from one part of it to another part of it. And, on the way we got stopped by the army saying it's dangerous, but you can just about get through. So we went through, so it was a 12-hour drive. When we got on the other side, we learnt they had to close the door behind us. They had to close the road because Taliban had invaded parts of the road that we'd just been on. So had we literally been there just a few hours earlier, God knows what would have happened. So parts of Pakistan can be quite dangerous, and I've had some interesting stories. And in Sindh, the problem is with bandits, more with kind of armed, bandits. We were always very careful. We always had police car behind us kind of thing. And that's because, but also I did feel somewhat safe because this NGO has people everywhere, like in every village, literally. So, the network of the NGO and the reputation of the NGO was very, very good. And that also protected us,
And but that's it. They don't get threatened. Their workers, their volunteers, they don't come in harm.
They do get threatened. I mean, it happens. They've had all sorts of harassment, but their work speaks for themselves. They have way more support than they have detractors,
You mean supporters? You mean in local villages and
villages and government everywhere, because they've gone in there and improved people's lives. And at the end of the day, beyond dogma, beyond religion, if you can just improve someone's life, people don't forget that. So that's why they're still around. That's why they're thriving, and that's why they're still doing a great job. And the woman that leads it is an incredible woman.
Oh, wow.
My friend Shandana is just a force of nature.
Amazing.
And she will stand any man down, from generals to colonels to whatever. She's one of my heroes. And, she's led this organization in an incredible way.
I am not shocked to hear that it's a woman. Not shocked, especially a Pakistani woman. Pakistani women have this level of badassery that I usually see that level of badassery with Black women in America. But Pakistani women have this level of badassery that it's just they're just out there, man. You're just out there doing stuff. I'm not even shocked to hear that. Does she get death threats? Do the people try to come after her?
Oh, she, mate, she has stories. You should get her on your podcast, mate.
I would love to get her on my podcast.
Unfortunately, I think 3 years ago, she was in Kabul helping the Afghan government set up a similar program, and her building was attacked by the Taliban.
Woo!
Yep, and she had to hide, and people were killed. This is not a joke. She's been through a lot of shit, but she's an incredible person,
Ooh, I got chills. Muddassar. I got chills when you said that.
I'll send you a name. You can look her up. Yeah,
I would love that. So it's not just the work is not only limited in Pakistan. They also go to Afghanistan and do work.
Well, actually, RSPN's work was so successful that it was replicated in India. The Indian government invited RSPN to set up this rural support program network in India. And it's a separate program in India that was inspired by the work in Pakistan and in Afghanistan. The Afghan government invited them to set up this work. So it's an incredible success story. I'm amazed more people don't know about it, but that's changing over time.
That is just incredible. I mean, wow, I didn't even know about them until, who I always thought was the biggest NGO was Eddie Sattar Welfare.
Sorry?
Eddie Welfare?
No. They have the largest ambulance network.
Oh.
In the world, but they're not the largest. I think it might even be in the world, largest free ambulance network, but they're not the largest NGO. No.
RSPN is.
RSPN is, yeah.
Wow. That is just, Muddassar, what always amazes me is that when governments invite NGOs to come and set up programs, it's like, you're the fucking government of this country. Why are you inviting NGOs when you have all the resources to help your country? You know what I'm
saying? Yeah, I understand. But, governments are, if anything, notoriously ineffective and bureaucratic, especially in Pakistan. The bureaucracy is insane. Insane bureaucracy. You can't get shit done, So I'm not surprised that NGOs, even in this country, bureaucracies always, everywhere, seem to be inefficient, I personally think the less government, the better.
The less government, the better. But in Pakistan and, and in, countries like Pakistan, just the level of corruption. And I don't even know how they get stuff. Like, my mom is in Karachi right now. And she's like, Pakistan is worse now than it was when you left.
Wow.
It is worse now than when the Pakistani currency has decreased in value than it was when I was a child. How could that be?
We need another podcast just to talk about that.
I can come up with that podcast. I'm about that life. Everything Pakistan. I recently had an amazing filmmaker, a British Pakistani filmmaker, Asim Abbasi. Do you know who he is?
I don't think I've come across Ahmed-Ep.40.
He lives in London.
Okay.
He came up with this incredible show called Churales, which means witches.
Oh, yeah, or was that him?
That's him.
Yeah. So it's just Churales is on Netflix now, right?
No, it's not on Netflix. It's on Z5. It's on ZTV network.
But is it set in Pakistan or set in India?
It's set in Pakistan. It's all entirely shot in Pakistan, all Pakistani female actors.
No way. I read about it. I've heard it's incredible.
He's so amazing. Muddassar, the level of badassery on this man is like next level. Okay.
What's his name? Ahmed-Ep.40.
Ahmed-Ep.40. He's amazing. He's amazing. I had him on my podcast, and we talked about the kind of stuff that they're tackling in Churales. They're tackling misogyny and patriarchy and feminism and LGBTQ and domestic violence, and they're just tackling so many things. And I just heard this week that Churales has been banned in Pakistan. They're trying to ban it.
They banned it. They banned Churales in Pakistan. It's on Netflix in the UK. I'm gonna watch it.
You should absolutely watch the show.
I just looked him up very quickly.
We don't have it. We don't have Churales in America.
I've just seen that he also made Cake. Have you seen Cake?
Yes, he did. No, I haven't seen Cake. I want to see Cake.
Oh my God, Cake is amazing.
Yeah,
I went to the premiere of Cake.
Huh?
I went to the premiere of Cake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I went to the premiere.
Wow.
Yeah, a friend of mine funded it. So, yeah, the Cake is an incredible movie. I loved it. You know?
I heard great things about Cake, and I've been wanting to watch it. But yeah, I mean, we don't have access to this content. So I asked Austin, I was like, hey man, do you think is there like a Vimeo link or something you can send me that I can watch it? Because I really want to watch it. But it kind of goes back to the conversation we were having about, this is just a show, right? It's just one show we came up with, Churales, after so many years of bullshit ass content that gets put on in Pakistan about, the sister-in-law is fighting and the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law hates each other, and that kind of catty, bitchy bullshit, rather than actually tackling the issues and the topics that are taking place in Pakistani society on a daily basis. And then they come out and they ban this show, right? I mean, to me, it's just like, how do we ever progress? How do we ever move forward, man?
I don't know, but I tell you how we move forward. We move forward by supporting people like your friend, Abbasi, and actually, making sure that we push these guys and support them in whatever way we can.
Yeah.
He's an incredibly talented person, and I'd love for you to hook us up if he's in London.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna try to. I would love an intro with Shandana.
There we go.
I would love done. We'll do that. We'll totally do that intro. I think we need to do exactly what we're doing right now, which is uplift each other and get the word out and try to help change this narrative, because this is just enough, man. This is just ridiculous. Are you planning on making a trip to Pakistan anytime soon, or what's that?
No, not to Pakistan. No, not for a long time. Not to Pakistan. I mean, given the way things are, I'm not planning to go anywhere. I can't wait for a vaccine to come. In fact, my last ever trip was with LA. I had an amazing time.
That was lovely. It was lovely seeing you too with us, sir. I'm so glad you hit me up when you're here.
Yeah. So I can't wait to start traveling again, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon.
If a vaccine comes out and it's approved by your equivalent of whatever your CDC is, we have our CDC here. Would you take it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're about that.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I'm absolutely. Yeah.
Is there a resistance among the minority communities in UK for taking vaccines? Is there like a stigma against it? What is that?
Do you know what? Everybody's so fed up. I think people will take it. It's something that people are so fed up about that I think that people will just want any way out of it. That's my view. That's how I feel. Maybe it's a reflection of how I feel more than it is about how people feel, but I can imagine that people will take it, Well,
that's right. You said that there are disproportionately amount of minority groups, and including Pakistani communities in England, that have been affected by the pandemic because of communication and because of, has your prime minister been very adamant about social distancing, wearing a mask? What has he been about this or no?
It's our prime minister again is much better than yours in this. Your president in this regard. messaging was confused initially, but it's been quite consistent now, and quite, it's been there now, quite a bit, and people have really, really, really taken it on board. Also, we have a great devolved government. So on the devolved level, Scotland, Wales, have their own administrations. So they're obviously, pushing the message a lot more as well.
So, and are minority communities practicing that, or they're like, man, it doesn't apply to us?
No, the minorities communities are practicing more than the other communities, for sure. They are? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Minority communities definitely are practicing a lot more.
Got it. I mean, those are all very good things. Now, Muddassar, you also, I don't know, can we talk about Concordia, or we can't?
I mean, we can, yeah.
Okay. I think what Concordia, you invited me out to, do a Concordia event that you had put together. So can you tell us a little bit more about Concordia and what the kind of objective is? Or if we can even talk about it. Is it like Fight Club? Can we talk?
No, of course we can talk about it. Concordia is a networking event for Muslims in the West.
Yeah.
And, we do retreats and we do a lot of other types of events. And, yeah, it's good times. It's fun. How did you find it?
For you. You invited me.
I know I invited you, but how did you find the experience of being there?
Oh, man, I had such a great time. You know what I loved most about it, Muddassar?
Yeah.
It's exactly the thing that you were saying earlier about, like, the West kind of painting Muslims with this one big brush of being like, all Muslims are these crazy conservative, friggin' Taliban-loving assholes, Yeah. But then you go to Concordia and you're like, okay, so there's super conservative Muslims and then there's, like, super liberal Muslims. And they're all under the same roof, having a dialogue, having a discussion, enjoying the same things, right? And some Muslims are just like, we're going to bed early and we are going to pray 5 times a day. And the other Muslims are like, I'm going to go get a drink. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that everybody can come together, the fact that you had me come out and perform, I have that recording of that set also. And everybody can come and kind of have this dialogue. To me, was really refreshing. It was really refreshing. It was really wonderful, and it was also very empowering to be like, I'm not alone, right? I'm not alone in this. We have similar minds.
I hope you'll come back.
I would love to come back. Are you guys planning something in 2021 or what?
Yeah, we're going to do it in 2021 now. We're supposed to do it around about now. I think it was supposed to be next weekend, but we skipped a year. And it's going to be in 2021. It's going to be back in the same place you came to in Lisbon, actually. And
I loved Portugal. I've never stopped talking about my trip to Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal's amazing. I love Portugal too. Yeah, we're in the same camp for that. I absolutely love Portugal, and Concordia is going to be there again, in October, and next year, and we're going to definitely do it again. We're probably going to do like a bunch of smaller dinners as well. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to bring this. We also started a new product, actually, which is like so the Concordia is about energy. It's about networking. It's about, meeting people, discussions.
Yeah.
We started something that is the opposite of that, which is it's called Sukoon. And it's about mindfulness. It's about being with nature.
Tell them what that means. Sukoon.
Sukoon is a very interesting word. It means peace in Arabic, Urdu, Hindi, Malay, and Persian. Like, it's one of those words that cuts across. I think the origin of it might be Arabic. And we started this Sukoon retreat last year, and it was incredible success.
Wow.
So this was like structured silence, structured meditation, yoga, nature walks, with a light touch of Islamic, but, but it was just mind-blowing, And we're doing that in April in the UK.
Okay.
And honestly, it's transformative for a lot of people.
Wow. Transformative. And these are, do people kind of pay for these retreats, and how long are they? And
people pay for them, and this is how we keep it independent and agenda free. So we make it more about the participant There's no other agenda apart from personal enrichment. And it's not, it's about, the experience that someone gets from coming there,
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Muddassar, that it's dinner time for you.
Yeah, it's 8:35, and I've been smelling dinner for the past hour.
What is your wife cooking?
I think she has cooked. It seems like a pasta and olives, and there's all sorts of things there.
That sounds good. I thought you were going to be like, it's Friday night. We're having, I don't know, some kind of biryani or some delicious Pakistani food.
We did that yesterday. We did that yesterday. I went to a place called Lahore Kebab House, and I pigged the hell out.
Oh man, that sounds amazing. Wait, do you guys have dine-ins?
No, we did takeaway, but we do have dine-ins happening at the moment.
Oh, you do?
Takeaway, yeah. So I got karai gosht with tarka dal, butter naans, sheikh kebabs, amazing sheikh kebabs.
Well, that's stop. It's only 12 o'clock. I haven't had lunch. Stop it. This is best desi food since my childhood, hands down. Tayyib's.
Yeah. So the two big in London, Tayyib's and Lahore Kebab House are the two big rivals.
Ooh.
You have to try Lahore Kebab House too.
Listen, next time I show up to London, Muddassar, we're going to Lahore Kebab House.
That's me. Done. I'll take you to Lahore Kebab House.
I am so down. Is that in East London or where is it?
Oh, East London, of course.
East London, of course. Yeah. I know. Muddassar, where in London are you?
Now I'm in East London. I'm still in East London. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I have to tell you this very cool story.
Sure.
2 years ago, I met this young man who belongs to this little band called One Direction. His name is Harry Styles. He's this kind of obscure little young man. I'm at a studio meeting and he's sitting next to me, and people are kind of freaking out around me. And I'm like, why are people freaking out? Like, I'm like, he's like this kid sitting next to me. And I knew who he was, but I didn't really listen to their music or anything like that. And I was like, hey man, what's going on? He's like, what's up? That was my first time coming to London. And and I was like, I'm going to London for the first time. And he was like, oh, that's so cool. He's like, where are you going to stay? And I was like, oh, I have like friends in Canary Wharf I'm going to be staying with. And then we're probably going to, and stuff like that. He was like, oh, that's so cool. And he's like, he was like, do you know places you're going to visit? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm like trying to map them out and trying to write places to go and explore. He goes, hang on a second, grabs a piece of paper and pen, starts writing in his very kind of gibberish handwriting, in his hieroglyphics, and starts writing all the places he likes to go in West London, and I should go to.
Wow.
And I have like, no.
Did you go?
No.
Oh.
I was too distracted by Tayyib's. I was like, I'm going to be enjoying all this desi food in East London. I am not venturing out all the way to friggin' West London.
Very good desi food in Central London too. But yeah.
Central London? But not in West London. Not in West London.
No, West London doesn't have good desi food. No.
Yeah. Because it's very heavily white.
Yeah, it's very heavily white. But Central London has some incredible desi food. Incredible. Yeah. I'll give you a list. You can do my list next time.
Dude, I'm so I wanted to share that corny little story of mine about Harry Styles, who is now a massive artist. He's a sweetheart on top of it. He's a good kid. Muddassar, thank you very much for joining us. This was a really wonderful conversation. I definitely want to bring you on because I feel like I haven't covered so much of the other stuff, and I know you're starving, and so am I. But where can we follow you, Muddassar?
You can follow me on Twitter. Twitter is, I'm not on anything else really. I mean, I'm on Facebook, but Twitter is my main public platform. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on anything else.
What's your handle?
At Muddassar Ahmed.
Well, because that's not complicated at all.
I don't know if you could put it in whatever you post this on.
You got it. I will do that. Muddassar, we're definitely doing the intros. I will follow up with you later. Have a great dinner. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Lovely to see you. I enjoyed this very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Muddassar. Yeah. Take care. Bye. That was the lovely and amazing Muddassar Ahmed. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. That I thoroughly always enjoy chatting with Muddassar. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good night. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. It would mean the world to me. Thank you, James, for tuning in as always. Have a good night. Stay safe.